It's 5 p.m., so we'll get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome to week 5 of AI Essentials for Small Businesses, and thank you all for being here. This week's session will be Data Made Simple, how to use AI to understand your business numbers, how you can use the data your business is already generating to make better and faster decisions without spending hours and hours on spreadsheets. I'd like to extend a huge thank you to our speaker today, Archie Gillis, who is a business advisor here with us at CEED. He's also an innovator and product developer, having been awarded numerous patents on various inventions which have spanned mechanical technologies, software, and hardware products. With over 15 years of experience working with small and medium-sized businesses across Nova Scotia, he has a talent and passion for assisting others with their goals. So with that, I'll pass it on to Archie. Thanks.
All right, thanks a lot. So welcome. I think a few people will probably still be popping in, but we can get started. Can everybody see my screen there, finding data before you find customers? Yeah, okay, great. All right, so there we go. This is me. As Aidan said, I work at CEED as a business advisor. I've been at CEED for about 3 years, but I've been doing the business development for probably almost 20 years now, I guess. And, a variety of training in that field and some in computer sciences as well in a variety of different ways. And I also have a music degree, which from St. FX from many years ago as well. So some of my mechanical innovations were on there. But anyway, we'll jump right in. So this is an entry-level webinar, I guess. Some of you have probably attended the prior sessions with Jay and the other CEED staff. So we'll continue right along there. I'll try to make it interesting. Data can sometimes sound boring, but it's actually can tell pretty interesting stories. So hopefully we can assist you with your business tasks. And so there's a variety of things that I'm going to go over. Often, I think this is applicable to existing businesses, but especially particularly useful to new businesses as well, which I focus primarily working with new startups. However, a lot of these tools can be utilized if you are an existing business as well. There's some neat strategies and they're changing every day, and I'm learning them every day. So this is all really the goalpost moves constantly. But that can also make it fun, and I'll also provide you with some new opportunities and new strategies, right? So I like this quote: AI won't replace humans, but humans using AI will replace humans. And I think that's not only true in the job world, but it's true in the startup world. So if you're going to compete, with other businesses, you have to keep that in mind, because it's not always a zero-sum game where if you win, someone else loses, but sometimes it is. If you're a local restaurant, for example, if somebody's not eating at or if somebody's eating at someone else's restaurant and not yours, often they only have so much money to spend on dining out. So sometimes that is the case. So sometimes competition is key, and ensuring that you have the proper tools and the best tools and strategies to outcompete the competitors is key. So what I suggest we look at first is finding data before we find our customers. So let's pretend you're a new startup and you're not sure, or an existing startup that's looking to kind of leverage some of these tools. First off, if you're a new business, you probably don't have data. So that's our first concern. So then we're going to be like, well, what do? We don't have sales data. We don't know who's buying our product. We don't know where we're going to be located, a lot of unknowns. And so if we have that data, great. As we move along, I'll show you what you can do with that data. But if you don't have that data, we need to find it, right? We need to find helpful information, helpful data that will help us with our business in making those decisions. Where do I open my business? Who should I target as a customer? What value do I bring that somebody else might not bring? What's trending? What's going to happen in the future? Can I somehow see the future? Not with a crystal ball, but by analyzing trends. And I'll talk about a few websites to do that. So where do I find my business data? Now, at Seed, we have a couple of courses in the self-employment program that I work within where we actually introduce our clients to a number of really great websites. And here's a few that it's, government or free services, and the data is vetted through real people, real organizations. And so it's not like it's going to be something from Reddit or Quora or something where the data is not really vetted. Statistics Canada has a lot of great census, income, business, all kinds of data that you can look at. Where we're in Nova Scotia, there's also the Nova Scotia Open Data Portal and downtown Halifax Open Data. And of course, the different businesses are going to require different data. Your data for a restaurant owner is going to be different than somebody who is selling beeswax candles. And I'll give you lots of examples so that we can kind of make this applicable to all businesses. And so if you want a copy of these slides after, just send me an email or Priyanka an email. My email is agillis@seed.ca. So feel free to do that or reach out to any of the Seed team and I can hook you up with those. So what I do here, I can hit Control, click. It actually takes me to the Stats Canada website. I'm going to pick English. And I'm not going to spend too much on this because we do want to get into the AI aspects of this, but finding the data is pretty key. So Statistics Canada has all kinds of data that you might find valuable. And you can scroll down here. I'll just do a fun one I looked at earlier. Baby names. You might be like, well, what do the baby names have to do with my business? Well, the point I'm going to make here is we have to know how to read the data and what the data means. So let's pretend I'm selling baby clothes. And if I wanted to make some samples, well, if I had a boy t-shirt and a female t-shirt, the best name I could probably put on that t-shirt as a demo product would be Noah or Olivia for a female. And you might actually sell them because then they're the most used names in Canada, which is kind of neat. But another example, I'm just going to put select a name. I'm going to select my own name, Archie. And now this is an interesting trend. So we also, not only do we need data, we kind of got to extrapolate and figure out what does this data mean for ourselves and for our business, right? Here you see the name Archie is hardly through 95 and 2000s, hardly any Archies. I'm an Archie from 76, so I'm dating myself, so I'm even way before this. But here we see the huge jump here. And now the AI will be able to make us these types of graphs, which I'll get into. In some of these websites, you might not even need to use AI. The AI is probably built in or it's coded in the background. So you'll find some interesting stuff here. Now, what happened in 2019 to make Archie become such a popular name? Well, there was a prince named Archie Born, and these are Canadian names. And so, you can see that influence from 2019, it just skyrocketed up. And then now, well, they're becoming a little less popular. Although today, I guess the king is in Canada, so who knows, right? But the point is, you also have to be able to look at this data and see it. So the AI will be able to help us and graph that out so that we as humans can understand it. And sometimes, there might be 500 elements of data which you could go through or sort with Excel, but that can be a real pain when you can just ask the AI to do it. There's a number of strategies that I use to do that. So you can look at these other ones. Canada Business Network and ACOA are essentially the same thing, but ACOA does some funding. the Canada Business Network, they have all kinds of resources and data that you can capture there as well. Halifax Partnerships, useful as well. Um, and you can see cool things like this is from Stats Canada. You can find out all kinds of great information. I was looking at this and I was surprised that couples with children are 26%, couples without children are 26%. So about equal. And then 28% are one person households. Well, what does that mean? For different businesses, that can mean different things. But I'm going to walk through some examples. Um, so when you're on Stats Canada's website, you might see things like, oh, they picked the median instead of the mean income. And you might wonder, well, why are they doing that? You think they would take the average income, which is the mean. Um, but I'll show you, explain to you why they do that and why it's important to kind of think through not only that you're using the data, but how you're using it and um, how you're going to assess what is valuable. What is you're almost looking for the value proposition for that data that you're collecting and what it means. So the reason why Stats Canada does this is imagine there's 5 people in a room and they all have these incomes. Well, this $2 million person is going to really skew the data. So here I said it's the Bill Gates bar example. If Bill Gates walks into a bar with 50 regular people, they all become multimillionaires because he skews the average income so much. And so the mean tells us what most people in that room um, will be earning. And so if you're targeting a certain group of people, you don't want to assume that they're all obviously all millionaires. So um, we can look at what that means. Um, Meaning that there's a strategy as to how you analyze that data, right? But you can also ask the AI, what is the best way to analyze this data? And I'll go through some examples as we go. And I can jump back to some of this stuff. For the last 15 minutes, we'll have lots of questions because I know that I'm throwing some stuff out here, so there might be some stuff that you want to focus on. There's lots of great localized data as well, like sites like this, the Halifax Data Mapping and Analytics Hub. You can find out who owns a food truck, how much is it to run a food truck, where are the locations of these vendors or these sellers or so on and so forth, all kinds of different things. Um, and last but not least, as where to acquire my data, I also use Google Trends, the website's here as well. You can look at that, and that kind of tells you what keywords people are looking at. We'll take a quick look at it here, actually, just for fun. Well, if it lets me. I guess I didn't set that up, so um, I just got to type in Google Trends. Here we go. So this is a good way to find out what is trending as well. Could be anything from, am I gonna, I saw today, a new company had released a bunch of e-bikes in the city. So that's going to make the other e-bike sellers upset. They look new, they look I remember reading an article in All Nova Scotia, another data source that you can look to for localized data just to see what is in the pipeline. If you're going to be setting up, and I actually have worked with some of these businesses that do the e-bikes or the scooters. It's going to make a difference for them. It can make an extreme difference if a big company with a lot of resources and financing comes in, can make a huge difference. And so this is Google Trends, and you can see what's trending now. I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but it's you can see the throne speech is trending 8 hours ago, 20,000 people, a lot of people searching for that. So this tells you what keywords people are looking for in Google. And Jennifer Lopez is popular yesterday for some reason. I have no idea why. Um, I don't know who this person is, but I think they have to do with Harry Potter. So, or one of them do. Anyway, exploring that is good. So that's where you get your data, and that's pretty important. Um, and I'll explain why that's important. And obviously, you want accuracy, right? Because you might be basing business decisions on this. Um, so I'm going to do a fun little exercise now and show you something that I did. Let's pretend I'm going to open up a sushi restaurant in Halifax. When I moved here in 1999, I think there was two sushi restaurants in the city, but I really got to like it. So, um, I found it fascinating how through the years I saw it grow, and I've eaten at the Wasabi House. So this is the Wasabi House here. Um, Significant growth began around 2010. By 2023, there's 60 sushi restaurants just in Halifax alone, not to mention the broader area. Um, and this trend, increased because we have increased immigration, international students have blown up, and a growing demand for global cuisine. The Indian restaurants have expanded as well. You'll start to see that. And so when you see a trend like this, I mean, it tells you something. I mean, some people are like, sometimes it's like in 2010, you might, it's almost like, oh, well, it's maxed out. There's too much competition. I remember saying that about Bitcoin about the same time. I'm like, well, it's already $200. It's gone as high as it's going to go. Um, but I mean, this has an upward trend, and of course, we can never tell the future. But sometimes with some of this data, we can try to extrapolate where things will go. And so, sometimes there's uncertainty. But what one would assume is to find out why it's growing from 2000 to 2010, and then try to find out, well, are we increasing immigration in the next 5 years? And there might be information on that through Stats Canada or through government or people you can talk to who are involved in that, or at the schools, Dalhousie, Acadia, St. Mary's. Are they assuming that new people will be coming into the province, and where will they be from? And that might help you assess, okay, this is the type of restaurant I'm going to open, or that I see that the growth will continue. Now, do we know if it will continue after 2023, I think is what this is up to. It's unknown. So we'd have to then figure out, okay, well, I think we know that some of I know the University of Cape Breton, for example, is missing the students from outside of Canada quite dramatically. So that might say, well, maybe this year is not the best year, but you'd have to kind of make that assessment for yourself. The AI, you have to be really careful about how you interpret the data, I guess. So one thing that I did with the Wasabi House, there's a number of ways to do this. I'm going to get or maybe I will. Where did I? I lost. Here we go. Okay. I'm going to type in Wasabi House Halifax. So I find this kind of fun. I always tell my clients, if you can, get a Google Business Profile, there are these things on the right so that when you type in um, a business in Halifax, it shows up here. And one of the cool things about this is you'll notice they were here. Oh, the reviews. All right. So I want to look at the reviews. View all Google reviews. Here we go. Okay. And so what I did was I cut and paste. There's what they call scraping, and I'll show you how to do that as well, where you can scrape all these reviews, but there is a little fee. But what I did, just for fun, was I went and I'll show you exactly how I did it. For those who don't want to do the scraping thing, you can do a Word document. Let's see if it pops up. I literally just cut and paste the reviews. Now, that's obviously monotonous and terrible. Um, but this is what it looks like, and I'll show you. So there's all these reviews, right? And so this is trying to figure out, okay, well, what is good about Wasabi House? I just picked this one as an example. You could have picked any of the others. Some of them have thousands of reviews, even in Halifax here. So reviews, I love this sushi place. They provide vegan sushi. Well, that's actually valuable information if you're going to open a house. What do people like? And what you can do is you can input this into ChatGPT or Claude or whatever your AI of choice is, or Gemini. Um, and you can ask it questions like, what were the greatest trend? What did people like most about this sushi house, right? What did they like less? You can actually even be like, who's the best employee there that gets the most positive feedback from customers or clients? If you got 2,500 reviews on there, often certain names pop up as good or bad. So you might be, even as the owner, you might be like, who should I fire? Who should I promote? Um, and so you can kind of take a look at that information, and you can just literally either drag and drop this file in there, the Word file that I cut and paste, or you could cut and paste it, and do as many as you want. I mean, if you're opening a sushi place on Quimpool, this effort very well might be worth it, because then you get to see they generously gave so much extra. They give extra food at the Wasabi House. They give you like free rolls and stuff like that. Um, and so on and so forth. So there's a bunch of those. I guess it probably took me about 5 minutes to cut and paste these 23 reviews in there. But you get the idea. Now, there is an app called Appify, which I'll show you, and you can pay for it like you could, I think it's like $40 or $50 for a month, which is expensive, but if you're developing this, what it does is it will open these little more buttons so you can, instead of doing this manually, you can just go in and it'll what they call scrape all this data that you can cut and paste that data directly. I'm not going to get into exactly how to do all of that today, but you can then find out what did people like best? What roles did they like best? And you can essentially ask questions like, is the miso soup there any good? And here you're getting 1,770 people have left feedback about Wasabi House, right? That's significant customer discovery information to find out what they like. A lot of them did not like the inconsistencies with the rice, right? And I realize we're not all opening sushi restaurants, but you can do this for BMG Electric Bike Store on Quimpool, which I'm a big fan of, and I left a review there. You can see it because they fixed my electric bike, and I was quite happy about that. Um, and so this can tell you an awful lot about the landscape in Halifax, about whatever type of business you're going to do, whether it's a sushi house or a e-bike selling or even smaller businesses, as long as they're registered here. So it could be anything from, if you're going to open an accounting firm to a um, financial planning system or whatnot. Sky's the limit. And so any business you can do that with, and you can kind of do what they call scraping the data. And I'll show you an easy way to do that. Um, copy and paste of Google reviews. It is allowed. That's another thing I was going to talk about. Is it legal? Um, I mean, the AI people don't seem to care about what data they steal from everybody, and whether it's photos or music or video or whatever. That being said, you want to proceed legally, and so technically, due to some of their terms and conditions, scraping is not allowed, but you can read those terms and agreements and see what you think. I mean, it is public data, so if you put it into an AI, it's technically not illegal. So it's not criminal. You won't go to jail. Copying, pasting Google reviews for personal or internal business use is not a crime in Canada. You won't get arrested. Google might get mad at you, and they'll honestly never find out. But it is somewhat against their terms of service to scrape it if you code it up. They're mostly only going to come after you if you code it up and start selling the data and stuff like that, likely. If you're just doing it for customer discovery, I don't really see any issue with that. So uh, you may not extract, scrape, or use content or data from Google services without written permission. But what does that mean? And that's the same with a lot. It's publicly available data. So anyway, that's you can read more about that and proceed as you see fit. Um, and so there's some examples of the data I scraped again. It is not inherently illegal. Manual cut and paste, slow but safe and easy if you're not technically advanced. But then let me see where we at. Oh yeah, you can find automated tools to do that. And this is just so you know that you can explore these because there's a app called Appify. Uh, whoops, where did it? I had a picture of it. Oh, here's the picture. Yeah, kind of looks like this. And it'll scrape everything from TikTok data to Instagram to Google reviews to Yelp reviews if you're a restaurant or a food person. Um, so it's pretty incredible, right? It's just a tool like a web browser or a scraper you write yourself. It automates web interactions, visiting pages and copying content and doing things like opening those little buttons. But there are other ways and there's a few instructions here. If you send me a note and request this, you'll see how to do it in some of the systems. Uh, so Appify, there's Octoparse, ParseHub. Some of them are cheap or free, and you don't need to be a coder to know how to use them. Good for beginners. Some offer templates for Google. They're fast and easy to use, but there is probably a little bit of you might have to spend an hour kind of figuring it out. Um, so what I did then, rather than doing it live, although I'm happy to do some stuff live, I use Claude and I use ChatGPT the most myself. So I have those ready when it comes to questions in about 15 minutes or so. But here's an example of I just dumped in the data and I said, what trends do you see from these Google reviews of a sushi house in Halifax? Wasabi House is what it is. That will help me with customer discovery and knowing how to outcompete other local sushi restaurants. So I want my sushi restaurant to be the best. But of course, extrapolate this into whatever your business is. If maybe you make wood products, or maybe you um, are an arborist who cuts down trees, or you mow lawns, whatever it is, you want to find out what are people liking. So then it said, here are the key insights, basically, is what it said. And it listed them off. And it said, here's the key trends for customer reviews. Uh, People seem to like the generosity, the most consistent praised aspect of the restaurant's habit of giving complimentary rolls or extras. I maybe others do that. And some other sushi houses do all you can eat. So you could kind of investigate one of the all you can eat ones, and they might say, well, it's a lot of food, but it's not great food. Um, but you'd have to do case by case. But then you could see, this place, Wasabi House, seems to distinguish itself by giving some extra rolls. Another place might be like, well, extra rolls don't matter if it's all you can eat, right? So there's different value propositions for each of these sushi restaurants. And that's what we want to figure out because are we going to compete head to head with Wasabi House, or are we going to compete against Sushi Jet, which has you can eat stuff. So there's some insights, valuable insights there. They like the freshness and portion size matters. Now, one of the things that the feedback did say was that there was some inconsistency in the sushi. So the morning person or the lunch person who makes the sushi is different than the evening person. And they found that there were some inconsistencies, that the rolls might have been smaller when so and so was working. So I found that just fascinating, right? Uh, Friendly staff, hospitality is good, so on and so forth. We don't have to go through all those, but repeat visitors, um, mixed reviews on the rice and technique. A few negative reviews cite rice texture, overly warm, the rolls are falling apart. Some connoisseurs had mentioned authenticity issues or balance problems with sushi structure. So, uh, you know, um, if you're in the sushi business, this is all really interesting stuff that might help give you a competitive advantage. The ambiance is cozy, not fancy. Some people said it was small, intimate space. Some called it no frills, but still kind of charming. So that tells you something. Kind of says that they're not trying to cater to a super high-end crowd. But anyway, then we go on to the Apify thing, which we already took a look at. Oh, and there is a free Apify plan, but it's not much of anything. You'd have to probably, yeah, $49 a month. But again, you don't need to use a data scraper. You can kind of explore it, or try it for $49. I'm presently trying the fancy Claude, which is $140 a month, which is extremely expensive, but I do love Claude AI. I find it different than ChatGPT, but I'll show you a few ways why I have two. It's almost like getting a second opinion. Um, but before yeah, so we'll leave that behind and we'll talk about some examples with what we call CSV files, comma, separated values. This is a pretty basic Excel um, uh, type of, it's the XLS or XLS X dot XLS Excel format, basically. And so nowadays, and this is relatively new, you can drag and drop the Excel files right into ChatGPT or right into Claude, and it'll analyze them for you. And I think I have some examples here. So what is a CSV file? Comma separated values, spreadsheets, gives you data like product, sales, location, numbers, locations, that sort of thing. I think I have an example here. I mean, most of us have probably seen uh, an Excel doc, but let me see. But sometimes there are tricks because if you don't put it in, if you don't drag and drop the Excel sheet, it might uh, it might get confused and not keep the format, and so it might not do it right. So here's an example of a list, which I'll get to in a minute. I'm just trying to balance my time. I've never done this workshop before, so I have no idea how long it runs. So I apologize. Um, so get familiar with CSV files. They're clean, easy to use, and you can feed it directly into GPT or Claude, whether it's your own data, maybe it's your own tax data, even like where, if you're doing your taxes and you have business receipts, how much did I spend on travel? How much did I spend on office supplies or whatnot, right? You can prompt the AI to kind of figure that out for you. Um, Helps you make smart decisions. So it can analyze, for example, sales locations, what's selling the best, what's not selling, suggest pricing strategies, forecast inventory needs, all kinds of things like that. Um, I have a couple of examples that I worked out. You can also use ChatGPT with your spreadsheets to figure out formulas. I use formulas in my Excel in my day-to-day planning with Seed. So I'm like, how many days since I did this? And it'll, rather than searching the internet or searching through the help menu in Excel, honestly, GPT just gives me the formula. I cut and paste it in, and life is quicker. I am faster at my job, and that holds true about almost any formula. So if you're trying to learn Excel, you can just kind of, if you have GPT or Cloud open, you can do that. Here you see some of the formula examples. I'm going to give one of the examples that I did just for fun to show some neat things. Uh, oh, it's thinking. Here we go. Hopefully it remembers what I put in. One little trick that I use is I often feed the output from one AI into the input of another AI. So what I'll do is I'll ask Claude, this is Claude here, and I ask Claude, can you tell me the growth rate of gourmet burger trucks in HRM, Nova Scotia, in the last 25 years? Can you search the internet to get up-to-date data? For GPT and Claude, it's starting to just search the internet naturally, but you might have to look at however far along we are, what if you have the free version or the paid version, that might be impacted. But I use the $20 version of GPT, so it's relatively inexpensive. But then Claude goes through and it searches a bunch of stuff. The cool thing that the AIs are doing now is showing you the sources, right? Because they're wrong. They were wrong. They're getting smarter and smarter though every day. So you do still have to be careful, but it does tell you, it will tell you where they came from, especially GPT. And here you can see the complete guide to Halifax food trucks 2025. So then you can be like, okay, I could find that source. Complete guide to Halifax food trucks. You might not have even known that that existed. So if you're trying to open a food truck business, well, away you go. You got all that. And so what I do then is I take what Claude gave me and I'm like, can you tell me the growth rate? I asked the same thing to GPT, and it tells me certain things. But then I'm like, what do you think about what Claude said to me about the food truck business? And I get a second opinion, so I just cut and paste that in. And then it says, thanks for sharing Claude's response. What Claude got right, what Claude might not have gotten right. And you can kind of iteratively do this, and then you can try to get more and more accurate information. Now, they might both be wrong. So there is that. And, don't take this is not Stats Canada. So it's not, I mean, even Stats Canada would have some potential biases or something in the way they asked the question. So nothing's perfect. So you just have to kind of roll with what information you can gather and extract and extrapolate from these tools. And so I find that really good. And it tells us what's missing. So feeding the output into another one and back and forth until you find something like that. I find that kind of a useful tool. Um, the other useful thing I do for data is in the prompt itself, I try to get the AI to write the prompt. So I'm like, can you improve my question? And I say, here it is. I wholesale beeswax candles in Atlanta, Canada. Can you write me a great prompt that will make ChatGPT or Cloud AI search the internet and find me all the customer lists from my potential competitors? Competitors do not like this, though, and some of them hide their wholesale lists, which makes sense. Um, Probably smart, but not everybody's smart. And if I'm a competitor, I'm going to extract that data and use it for evil purposes to make my business better. So I want to know who might naturally be interested in my candles and who can I contact that sells these products. And then it improves the question pretty dramatically. My question was kind of lame. I wholesale beeswax candles in Atlanta, Canada, and want to expand my customer base. Can you help me craft an effective prompt that will so on and so forth? And you can see it gets into gift shops, eco-friendly stores, spas, wellness centers. Thought of all kinds of things that I did not think of to improve my question, and it did it instantly. Instantly. I just asked my terrible brain dump question first. It improved the question, and then I just cut and paste the prompt in there, and then it outcome puts the output. Um, this is the, yeah, here's where I pasted it in. So I just pasted in the exact thing here. And then it gave me a list of potential retail partners in Atlanta, Canada that I can then hit up. I can say, hey, buy my candles. I know you sell candles, therefore mine are better because of this reason, and whatever reason that is. Maybe they're made out of a better product, so on and so forth. And then, of course, how do you use that information? Will you pitch them? In one of the other workshops, I think Jay did a write a good introductory letter or whatnot. And then I say, this list seems short. Should I attend wholesale trade shows, or is there a way to get even more stores that have potential on this list? And then it goes through and it tells me all the wholesale trade shows. I used to do those with some social enterprises that I worked with. So I knew to ask that question. So that's that, but you might find out, okay, well, what else should I know? You can even ask the AI what else you should know. So that's kind of a neat system too, is using the AI to ask to help you write the prompt and uh, get you to tell what it is. I even said I'm trying to cut and paste all the Sushi Jet reviews, but need to go and manually open each more tab. Is there a better way to automate this? Right? And it gave me a bunch of no coding required tools to do that. And that's magical data. That's data like we make our clients at CEED do a lot of customer discovery and talk to people. And of course, that's still very important and critical and crucial to do. But you can get a lot of really awesome customer discovery data from these Google reviews about different businesses. Um, and so there's all kinds of it levels up from green being no coding, semi-manual, right up to full, Python scripting if you're familiar with that. And so some of us very well might be, but you don't have to. There are ways to do it. Just ask the AI. And what I did here, I just dragged and dropped in a CSV file. It shows a bunch of code, but if you're not a coder, don't let that scare you. That's it doing all the work in the background. So it's running a Python script in the background, and it kind of does that. But then at the end, you can see that it will show you a chart. And I think I have a bigger version. Let me just get the chart here. Where did you go, chart? Oh, food chart. So if you're making a business plan or you're pitching a investor or you're doing a even for a partner or anything, Oh, it's not opening, but you get the idea. It's showing you that the Halifax waterfront was the best place. Second best was Clayton Park. So I realize that that's really small, but anyway. Um, so that's a few things there. Let me just see what else we might have missed because we're running out of time. So, um, I guess just a few points here. You want to, I think ChatGPT, from what I'm understanding, is that you might have to look into the browsing thing to make sure that the data is up to date. Whether that's if you need to pay for the $20 version, I'm not 100% sure because it's up to 2023 that it was trained on the data, but there are new tools now that allow it to search the internet. But sometimes you have to specifically ask it to search the internet. There's some fancy new versions that do deep research, which I use quite a bit, and that's part of the reason why I pay for them. And they'll go into, like, as an inventor, they'll go into patent databases and extract, and really dig into those deeper than by not using those more advanced systems. Um, and so again, you have to also, last but not least, I guess, to wrap things up, how reliable are the insights? Well, uh, you know, you have to kind of make that judgment for yourself. I mean, I remember 2 or 3 years ago that the AIs were hallucinating all the time. They've gotten so much better, and the trajectory is just not stopping. So, um, it feels like they're doubling in intelligence every 3 months or so. I'm sure there's an equivalent to Moore's law of this somehow. But, buyer beware. Use it at your own risk. Go to the sources. AIs like Perplexity, but even now Claude and ChatGPT are giving you the sources. So if it's Reddit, remember that that's data from humans. Quora is data from humans, but sites like Stats Canada and articles by reputable um, papers or news, are much more reliable. So you have to kind of make that assessment yourself. So um, that's mostly what I wanted to go over.
Okay, in that case, thank you very much, Archie, for your wise words and your knowledge and learning all about AI and how it can help you gather things from the internet. Very interesting. We will be sharing this recording of this session and all of the past recordings on HubNS under the resources tab at the end of this series. So after our webinar next week, keep an eye on our socials. We'll make an announcement about when all of these courses are available. And next week is our final session of the series, Marketing Made Easier Using AI to Write, Design, and Plan Your Content, hosted by Priyanka. And if you're looking for anything entrepreneur, Nova Scotia wise, make sure you follow us on socials at CEEDNS. And if you aren't already a member of HubNS, please join. That's where we post blogs and lots of interesting things to keep the entrepreneurship ecosystem alive and maintained in Nova Scotia. And thank you all for your attention and participation. And we'll see you next week.